Hi guys, welcome to Home with Hachi Mama. Today I'm going to be talking about my Enneagram typing journey and how I've been incorrectly typing as a 9 for the past 2 years, and it turns out I'm a 7. So let's just go ahead and get into it. So I got professionally typed by Empathy Architects, and I'm actually doing my teacher training with them, and I love all their work. And they worked with the creator of the Try-Fix, Try-Type theory that basically they've been trained by Catherine Faber, who's the person that really explored this concept. And I trust their opinion, and now that I've gotten to sit with Sexual 7 for a little bit, I definitely see it. So I just wanted to disclose how I figured it out, because it definitely didn't originate from me. It originated from a group of professionals. So, and some people in a Facebook group that I'm in that were screaming at me that I'm a 7 a lot. And it turns out they were right. And now here's my quick little PSA to get professionally typed, because as much as you can learn the Enneagram, it's really hard to see yourself clearly. And I'm someone who I honestly feel like I know a lot about it. I'm doing my training and I'm still learning constantly. That's one thing I love about the Enneagram, is there's constant, infinite stuff to learn. But I really felt like I understood the Enneagram. But it really takes meeting people of the other types and real life experience to really understand the Enneagram. And I was lacking that real world experience and just going off of how well I knew myself, which you can know yourself really well but have your blind spots, because that's what the ego is there to do. It's to keep you from really seeing what's going on inside, because if you saw what's going on inside, it would get dark. So get professionally typed. Just do it. I never in 1,000 years would have thought I was typed incorrectly, because every single test I took confirmed I was a 9. But it's because I'm answering the same way each time, and because I saw myself in a certain way, and because 9 is still in my tri-type. I am 9 second, but my core type is 7, and that's the part I was missing. So that's just my little PSA, and now we'll talk about the Sexual 7 and how it can look like 9 and also look like 4. Also, if you don't know a lot of these concepts, this might not be the best video for you to start with, because I'm not going to go into explaining what these terms mean. This video is really for people who already understand Try-Fix and the instincts in the Enneagram in general. So I eventually do want to teach these concepts, but this video is more about my journey, and I'm assuming you already know. When I do teach these concepts, you can come back, but until then, you might want to learn these things on your own. Okay, just warning you. So I did have my numbers correct. I had 9, 4, 7, but I had the wrong order, and the order is really important, especially since my core number, the first number, changed from 9 to 7. So what I'm going to talk about today is how my sexual 7ness was I was misrepresenting it in my mind as 9 and 4. So there's some characteristics of being a sexual 7 that to me appeared 9 and 4, and I'm just going to show you guys how those things got wrapped up in my mind, and maybe this will help other people who are trying to figure out what the frick's going on in their brains. So I will just say also, the main reason why I picked 9, 4, 7 as my tri-type order is because I read somewhere, and I honestly don't remember the source, was that the 9 and the 4 and the 7 in that order leads to someone who feels very bittersweet feelings, a sense of melancholy and longing for things, but an overall bright, happy demeanor, but with these kind of just deep feelings about everything kind of like ending or like being lost and like the loss of time and that bittersweetness and like this like longing and feelings of like being happy that things are happening, but also feeling like sad while they're happening because they're gonna be over. That's definitely, I relate to that so much. I wake up every day and I just want to like seize the moment and seize the time. And I feel very like bittersweet about everything, it feels like. So that, I romanticize the past, I romanticize the future, all of that. Oh, look, it's my dog. That's Hachi. And I'm Hachi Mama. So that is why I picked that order. And I just want to explain that because all of those emotions can actually be tied back to sexual 7, and that was kind of what was making me pick that order. Sexual 7 versus self-preservation 9. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about some of the characteristics of being a sexual 7 that made me think I was actually a self-preservation 9. So the first quality is suggestibility, which is a quality of being a sexual 7, versus over-adaptability and over-adjustment. I have both because I have 9 in the tri-type, but they look different. So being suggestible in the way of the sexual 7 will maybe be me becoming like fascinated by like differences of opinion. Like if we do have differing opinions, I might be like really wondering why and like really curious about like how you landed on your point and getting like obsessed with your idea and opinions and interests in a way that may make it so that you are able to convince me of your point. And that can look like over agreeability or over adjustment, becoming like malleable to people's ideas. And it kind of is. They're very similar, but a 9 won't always know their opinion. A 7 will maybe become fascinated with the spot between your opinion and my opinion, and it won't cause conflict for me. It'll cause like a fascination in that concept or idea. So if that makes sense, hopefully it does. So like if you like cheeseburgers and I like hot dogs, I might be like, so what do you like about cheeseburgers? And just really get into like your thought process about cheeseburgers. In the end, I might be like, you know what, I like cheeseburgers. But it's because I'm got like this is an exact quote. It's like a readiness to be mentally flexible, but that leads them to be like gullible, easy to hypnotize, and susceptible to the infection of enthusiasm. So they're very similar in my mind because I have both. I am overly agreeable and overly suggestible, but the difference is that one will become fascinated, will know their point, but will become fascinated with your concept, and maybe you can convince them, while 9 will just sort of not really even know where they stand in any of that, and they'll just go with your opinion because it's usually easier. So I have both, which makes it extra confusing, but that's just point 1 on how sexual 7 can look like 9. So the next part of sexual 7 that can look like 9 is the everything is fine quality, which is definitely something I relate to largely. And the sexual 7 may appear overly happy, like overly fanciful and wonderstruck and just like more fairy-like in their everything is fineness. Sorry, Panzer does not like that point. And the 9 will appear more, I think, flatlined. Everything is fine and like just more calm energy, I believe. I didn't run that by anyone, but that's how I see it and going with that. So the next quality of the sexual 7 that looked like 9 to me was distractibility. 9s are very distractible and they will put off their own agenda for other people and just like never really get to their own things. They're overly adjusted and overly adaptable and all those things. Very distractible. They don't get much done, and neither do I. So that made me think I was 9. I think I just burped, but it was weird. So then the 7 will distract themselves in other ways, like thinking about their burp. Sorry, I just realized that it's like very perfect timing that weird mouth burp happened during the distractibility portion of this conversation. The sexual 7 will distract themselves with things they think are fascinating and fanciful, and they'll need like mental constructs to think about and like all those things. And I have both. So mine manifests in like I want to do routine things, but have like a very interesting book playing in my ears, or having an interesting conversation with someone, like talking on the phone. I'll need to have some sort of mental fixation while I do these routine tasks. And I like doing both. So in my mind, I just attached this like need to like clean my room and listen to an audiobook as 9. But the fact is I can't just like do these routine mundane tasks without like some sort of mental stimulation of something I'm like really interested in. So that is confusing. And I also have a 6 wing, which makes my 7 more like routinized. But that was somewhere where, again, my sexual 7, this like love of pitter-pattering around the house and doing like who'sy whatsity things and listening to audiobooks made me think I was a 9, where it's a little bit of both, but there's some 7 in there where I need some mental stimulation. So the next part of the way my sexual 7 manifests and 9 that confused me was sloth, which is 9's, of course, like sin, I guess. That's like their big quality that we're supposed to look out for with 9's. And I feel like I have that. I get nothing done. Like, it's a miracle that these videos are even potentially going to get out into the universe. But 9's are known to not be very action-oriented, and so kind of are sexual 7's, but in a different way. So sexual 7's can get like obsessed with planning an idea and like imagining a happening, but they might not ever really care if they do it because they are like head types, and they can get caught up in imagining a task instead of doing it, which is completely true. I have all these plans for Hachi Mama TV and like Home with Hachi Mama. I feel like I spend a little bit of time each day imagining the work I'm going to do on this channel. As you can tell, less and less gets done each month. I'm working on it. But that was another part of sexual 7 that manifests as like 9 appearing to me. Now we're going to talk about how some aspects of sexual 7 appeared like 4 to me, and then we'll understand why I'm this type. Sorry, one more aspect. Everyone talked about how the dude from The Big Lebowski was like the like image of what self-preservation 9's look like, and I honestly feel like that, but just because he like really is calm and he wants things like his way, like he'll just like get snappy about things that affect him and the things he like kind of wants, like in a self-preservation way, like about food and time and energy. And I definitely get that way too, but I think that has to do with my like 7-ness wanting things to be ideal, because I'll get like snappy if like the food I want isn't there, but I think that's just because I want like things to be ideal all the time. But they look similar. And I do have self-pres as my second instinct, and 9 is my second thing. So who knows? Who freaking knows anymore? I feel like it's so confusing, but I am move on to 4 now. Sexual 7 versus 4. So this next portion about how the sexual 7 can look like 4, I'm taking a lot of this information from an Empathy Architects video that I will link in the description below. And it talks a lot about how the sexual 7 can feel like a 4 in their hearts, even though they will outwardly appear overly happy and like overly upbeat and almost like fairy-like and magical-y, which I don't really see myself, but I can see maybe if that's something other people see, because I do get told all the time, like, oh, you're such a happy person. So this next portion, I'm just stealing a lot of thoughts, so I wanted to give them a shout out and link their post in the description below. So check it out. So the reason I and other sexual 7s might miscategorize themselves as having 4 in their tri-type, like higher than it should be, is because sexual 7s do like crave a depth of emotion, and they fall in love very intensely, and they relate to their world through dreaming and imagination. They like things that are like more emotional and, again, deep. Like, I wish there was a better word, but like depth of topics, interests, things, love, everything. They fall in love with people, places, things, ideas, everything. They're just kind of oriented in this like overly imaginative and dreamy way where they can't really tolerate reality, and it can feel like 4 to them. And they also don't relate to the super upbeat appearing 7s. Like, they might look at other 7s and be like, why are you so happy? And like, they don't feel it in their heart, but to other people, they will appear overly happy. And 2 people that are possibly sexual 7s are Jim Carrey and Robin Williams. If you think about like their energy and just like how happy they seem, that's how sexual 7s may appear to people, even though in their hearts they're feeling a lot more like depth and maybe like raw emotion than they may feel. And I relate to that a lot. I get told all the time about how happy and like upbeat I seem, and I definitely feel like there's more to me than that. And I also just don't feel I just don't feel like I don't feel unhappy, but I definitely think I have way more of a range than just happy. So another way that the sexual 7 can look like 4 and why they can miscategorize themselves is because the sexual 7 and the 4 are both idealistic types. So there's always frustration with idealistic types, because when you have an idea in your head of how the world should be and the world's not meeting it, you're frustrated. So the sexual 7 can be idealistic and over imaginative and stuff, and can lead to frustration, and that is something that the 7 and the 4 share. So that was another way in which I was confusing my personality traits that are sexual 7 or 4. And I think that is it. One little tidbit that I think is helpful for everyone is that I was told during my typing meeting that my quick processing speed and like how fast my thoughts kind of, I guess, go through, and my outwardly excitable demeanor was what really like put me into the 7 category. So if you see any of that in yourself and you're trying to figure out if you're 9 or 4 or 7, consider 7, because apparently the really excitable, happy, upbeat stuff really leads you to 7ness. So that should be something you should really examine if you share any of those qualities. I think that's it. Final thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this was helpful to at least one other person who's on their typing journey. And if you have questions, you can feel free to reach out to me, leave a comment, and I will respond. I'm not certified to be a teacher, so, run this past your local Enneagram teacher before you just take my word for it. But I am getting certified, so one day I will feel qualified enough to give you guys the lowdown on Enneagram stuff, but I'm still on my journey. I'd like to give a shout out to Sterling and Aaron, but I don't know if they're going to watch this, but they're the ones who helped type me, and their website is Empathy Architects. They have an Instagram, Empathy Architects, and I love their work, and I trust their analysis on all of this stuff. So just know I've pretty much downloaded their thoughts through the internet and am regurgitating them to you guys. So, yeah, if you have any interest in the Enneagram, I recommend them as a great resource for learning those things. So I think that's it, and I hope you guys enjoyed this long overdue Home with Hachi Mama video. Bye, guys!